Girls Frontline 2 is just a few days out from its first anniversary on the global servers, so I wanted to take the opportunity to give a recap of what it has to offer from the official livestream, and then afterwards, go over why I don't actually cover Girls Frontline 2 on this channel, despite me having frequently glazed GFL2 at the most unrelated of moments throughout many videos I've made in the past. The crew deck mode will finally be making its way to global servers, an open environment where you can walk around in as the commander, or some of your own playable dolls in future game versions, and interact with your own dolls in many ways, both big and small. There is some light furniture customization, and of course the Macchiato interactable scene with branching path options for some light replayability for everyone who's a big fan of the purple-haired tsundere Mega Dork. The Macchiato scene will be given out for free in the in-game mail and will not be locked behind any paywalls, so remember to check your mail when the patch goes live. On the topic of the Macchiato scene and paywalls, yes, the infamous Klukai Beach Skin Gacha will also be arriving on the doorstep of global servers, though I'm sure with all the blowback Mika team got from GFL2 players worldwide, especially in China, I'm sure they're proceeding very carefully with adjusting free pull acquisition rate and how frequently they'll be adding more skins to pull for in the future. I'll save my personal opinions on the whole skin gacha situation, which I have not officially addressed in a video before, at the very end. Deep Oblivion, the next major story content patch, will be our focus for the next 2 patch cycles, with part 1 featuring Leva as the limited banner character, as well as a surprise double banner from her upbeat sister, Lena, who will also have her own story content running parallel to part 1, Intertwined Assault. Rabella, the first of Girls Frontline 1's AR team, will be reuniting with us in part 2 as the limited banner for the second half of the major patch. They're really edging me all the way to the bitter end on this one. Well, fine, if Mika doesn't want my money and I get 7 copies of my beloved without dropping a dime, then so be it! As for character skins coming out, Q-Hub will have a free skin that can be claimed at any time in the achievement shop, and Springfield will also have a free skin as a milestone reward in the game's new collection log system. More on that later. For paid skin options, Leva, Lena, Rabella, and Centerasi will be getting paid skins for a direct purchase. And Doris' skin will also be available as a direct purchase or can be pulled for in the skin gacha, which is of course where the Klukai skin will be nestled neatly in for us global players to now join in on the hate train. I personally think the maid's swimsuit kicks the shit out of the Hyperdimension Neptuna biker chick anyway, but what do I know? Everyone loves Klukai. For character buffs, Andris, Lena, and a second buff for Ulrich will be coming in part 1. The irony is not lost on me of Lena getting buffed on her debut banner, but whatever. Belka and Zhang Yu will receive their buffs in part 2. And while on the topic of buffs, a new feature coming to GFL2 is a rework system for common keys, allowing you to upgrade their baseline stats to push the strength of any one of your own dolls further beyond their limits. Other noteworthy additions will be the aforementioned collection log system with rewards that include the previously stated Springfield skin and some quality of life improvements. You will now be able to favorite any item across all the game's dizzying amount of shops, allowing you to purchase all of them at once in a consolidated checkout tab so you're not having to dig around for everything when stock starts to refresh on a weekly and monthly basis. Auto Battle will be overhauled to include a new system that lets you set skill priorities as well as setting unique conditions that must be met before the doll will even use the skill in the first place. If you've ever played Unicorn Overlord, then you'll pick up on this immediately. But here's hoping the options available are as in-depth as the sleeper hit strategy game. And lastly, weapon attachments, GFL2's gear system equivalent, can now be set to auto-dismantle lower rarity gear upon acquisition. I don't know how useful this will be for certain nuanced reasons myself, but maybe this feature is just not for me, given how I manage my own account. As for free pulls, we'll be getting 40 limited pulls and 10 standard pulls, spread across multiple different login events throughout Part 1 and Part 2 of Deep Oblivion. I'm sure there'll be plenty of additional pulls in the content itself to get after, but we'll just have to wait and see if it's enough to pull across 3 banners with some pretty strong dolls in them. Speaking of pulling, the guarantee rerun banners we saw during Mimis Burner's loop will be making a return with a larger pool of doll and weapon options. Here, you can select one of the available options to focus on, and the first 5-star pull on both the doll and the weapon banners will be the selected doll in question with no 50-50 and no 75-25 respectively. Subsequent 5-star pulls on either banners, however, will return to the normal system, so keep that in mind if you try to go for more than one across both banners. If you're comfortable spending money in GFL2, then the twin pack we also saw during Mimis Burner's loop will return again with a larger pool of options. This one-time offer lets you pay to select one doll and one signature weapon. and assuming its price is the same as the previous pack, then it will cost about $45. I will personally be buying the twin pack for a duplicate of Centurasi and the signature weapon for Mechdi, but currently have no plans to pull on the rerun banner as I'm gunning for a max vertebrae Rebella at the start of part 2. There will also be another twin pack with a similar deal, however it's exclusively for standard banner dolls and weapons. So unless this pack is dirt cheap, like we're talking $10 to $15 max, then I personally would not recommend this to anyone. Seasoned players will have a roster large enough to not worry about standard dolls, and newer players will have access to the standard banner selector, a feature that wasn't available at global launch to take advantage of all the standard banner pulls throughout the game's existing content. There's of course more that was revealed during the livestream, but that's all the major points that I felt were worth talking about for the first global anniversary for Girls Frontline 2. Overall, I'd say this anniversary is actually a little underwhelming in my opinion. When compared to Mimis Burner's Loop, the Springfield and Perry patch that wasn't even the game's half anniversary, it was literally just a random patch from 4 months ago, it's closer to a side grade when it should really be a massive improvement, or at least a noticeable improvement. It's safe to assume that Deep Oblivion will have more substantial content than Mimis Burner's Loop, both in story and actual gameplay. However, I'm wondering if the rewards across the entirety of Deep Oblivion will be enough when you put it in a larger context. See, there's probably more pulls to earn overall than Mimis Burner's Loop, but you have to consider that we're not getting a free 5-star doll like we did with Faye. Only a couple skins are returning as opposed to the entire catalog with no discount vouchers like before. Only this web event where you can get friends to click on a link to discount Centurasi's skin at as low as a price as 10 paid currency. If you're someone who will be taking advantage of this, then more power to you. However, I'm not a fan of this inorganic form of word-of-mouth marketing where your players become a bunch of desperate beggars. I hate web events like these, stop fucking doing them, I'll just buy the skin at full price, or simply lock my brother out of the apartment until he does it for me. That's a joke. He has his own key, by the way. We are of course also opening Pandora's box with the global introduction of the skin gacha, and the accelerated scheduling of global content updates means we'll be losing the foresight of what future dolls to pull and skip on as we get closer and closer to matching the Chinese server version. And while we will be getting compensated in this version with an additional 2,100 premium currency, I'm sure many hardcore players are not keen on the idea of getting spooked at whatever Mika cooks up in the future like the CN community has had to deal with numerous times before, be it controversial features or unpolished content offerings that made it too soon to the game. So yeah, that's my opinions of Deep Oblivion just by going off of the livestream. It could be better, it could be worse. We'll just have to wait and see once the update is in our actual hands. Now then, let's just move on immediately to the next topic. Why does someone like me, who frequently and openly shills Girls Frontline 2, rarely ever makes any actual content for Girls Frontline 2? There are 3 primary reasons why I personally don't cover this game. I never played Girls Frontline 1, and I have no intention to watch its story content for context of the overarching world and character development. Team building and meta discussion, in my opinion, is very one-dimensional, and GFL2 is a sort of relief for me from content creation. The same can be said for Stella Sora currently for me as well. The first reason is pretty self-explanatory. Not having any experience with GFL1's story puts me at a disadvantage of being able to explore the character dynamics, story differences, and writing quality between both games. However, my brother has actually gone and watched several story summaries from Girls Frontline 1 and has heavily praised the content he's seen from it. Which, this might sound weird, but it almost puts me in a sort of ignorance is bliss feeling, where I feel better off not seeing it for myself as to not end up constantly thinking about the differences in story quality between both games, and letting it sour my feelings of playing GFL2. Especially because I can just take one look at the gameplay of both games and know that I'd never go and play GFL1 anyway, which is more important given we are talking about video games, not some manga or anime show. As for team building and meta talk, I personally think it's a waste of time in particular with Girls Frontline 2. GFL2's meta in most cases revolves around using mono-element team compositions not only to synchronize damage types with enemy weaknesses, but also because the element archetypes themselves are designed to synergize well within their respective element. Burn teams have a heavy focus on single target combat, corrosive is the opposite with a lot of area of effect dolls, electric teams focus on the positive-negative charge effects a majority of the dolls have, physical, at least as of right now, is very Vanguard saturated and therefore are more focused on flanking and charging positions, so on and so forth. And as for building characters in GFL2, it basically kills almost all forms of guide content beyond if the character is worth pulling in the first place. The homogenized resource requirements for all dolls being the same when combined with the weapon attachment system having very obvious choices for sets and substats, coupled with the ability to infinitely re-roll said substats, results in getting decent builds for characters up and running so incredibly fast without the need of a building guide for every new character. The only thing I've been using the entire time I've been playing the game to build characters is a publicly available Google document that's regularly updated to add new dolls, and even then, I likely would have came to similar conclusions of how to build my characters had I not even used the document. I also had a resource requirement list as well, but have stopped referring to it entirely because of how GFL2's event shops just let me continually stockpile resources I'm accumulating faster than I can pull dolls to expend them on. As for my last reason, as much as I love to talk about and critique Zenless Zone Zero on this channel, I'd prefer to not have that kind of dynamic for every gacha game I play. When I want to play Girls Frontline 2, I can do so without any thoughts in the back of my mind if there's anything I wanted to make a video on while I play the game. That's not to say I don't want to cover GFL2 at all, I just don't feel compelled to, though that could honestly change at any given moment. And coincidentally, at this given moment, I did say I would close out the video with my opinions on the long cold topic of the Klukai skin gacha, which I will be entirely honest here, the reason I never covered it was because it was a very one-sided conversation driven by an overwhelmingly like-minded opinion of players not wanting blatantly greedy business practices to take over Girls Frontline 2, and potentially give a green light to any neighboring gacha games, or even dare I say, the Big Four. With all that said, it should be pretty clear that I am implying that I had an opinion that went against the majority, and you would be correct. As while I agreed with the pricing being outrageous and its existence in a gacha game with a 50-50 system, that's where my similarities with the majority of GFL2 players ended on this matter. But after 2 recently made his own video about the Klukai skin situation that was closer to how I felt, I may as well give my own opinions right now. Alright. The Klukai skin controversy was a massive overreaction and is what happens when everyone gaslights themselves into thinking GFL2's only value is the dorm system. Or a lot of them are just virtue signaling about how they won't spend any more money for internet clout. Springfield's cafe uniform being free through a collection log reward system and the massive positive reception to it, as well as similar cases like the free Coalfiend skin, is proof that cosmetics are subjective and all the good skins being locked behind the gacha was just pure hogwash projection. The skin gacha was an inevitability when you take a step back and actually look at how Girls Frontline 2 and its current reward systems does not compel enough people to spend any money to keep the company going. Consider for a moment how GFL2's gacha system, when compared to the competition, has a reduced hard pity, reduced soft pity, reduced cost per pull, a higher daily currency income, a higher per patch pull income, being 3 weeks instead of 6, strong standard characters, borrowable characters and guild content, bundle options with better value, multiple free elite dolls, multiple free skin opportunities, guarantee rerun banners and direct purchasable doll bundles, absolutely zero demand for players to pay for stamina refills, and overall easier endgame content should be everything you need to know that Mika was gonna push hard for cosmetic monetization. Generosity is something everyone wants to demand and praise for in gacha games, but it can be just as unsustainable as a greedy gacha game that no one spends money on. If a gacha game goes on for too long without compelling players to spend money, then those very players just might find themselves paying the ultimate price instead and lose the entire game through end of service. And at that point, maybe, just maybe, the $200 skin wasn't such a bad idea. Don't roast me over the coals for this one, guys.